Hello. I'm gonna do two things in this video. The first thing I want to do is pick an order for my chosen rereads, and I wanted to do this in a kind of fun surprise kind of way and give myself a chance to unwrap some gifts. So I have 12 gifts, but they're all books that I already own. Favorite books of all time that I haven't reread in a very long time. And I would like to reread one a month in 2022. And I want to plan it all out now. So I have wrapped them all and written a number, that's 9, and written a number on them. I'm going to pull out a number, and that will determine what book I'm reading in January, February, etc., all the way to the end of the year. These are some of my favorite books. I know they're some of my favorite books, but I don't remember all of the books that I wrapped. I wrapped them back in September. And I know a couple of them, but I don't know all of them. I don't remember all of them. And I don't remember which one goes with which number. So this will truly be a shock and awe moment for me, as well as I determine which of my favorite books I get to read in which month over the course of the year. So this is the first thing that I'm going to do in this video. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to do my birthday book haul. So here we go. Oh, I pulled it out. You didn't see it. This was the first number I pulled. This will be my January reread. January reread is number 10. Number 10. So in January, I am going to reread This Present Darkness. So I'm going to reread this one. I have not read this one since the probably mid-1990s, like 1995, 1996. This is a Christian horror novel. It was kind of the very first Christian horror novel, if you don't count Fantasties by George MacDonald, which I do. But it was one of the very, very first Christian horror novels. I have not reread it since 1995 or 6. So I tell myself that it's one of my favorite books of all time, but I don't really know if that's true anymore. So I'm going to reread it and find out. So that's January. Now, number 2 for February. I know what this one is. And this is the perfect book for February. In February, I'm going to reread Wuthering Heights. But I'm going to reread it in this annotated, gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful edition that I got for my birthday a million years ago from my parents. And I'm super excited about this. It's going to take me a long time to pour over. I've had this for many years, and I've never read this edition of it. So I'm going to reread Wuthering Heights, but I'm going to do it in a new format that I've never used before, and I'm excited about that. And February is a great month for it. The vibes are right. Number 9. This will be the book that I reread in March. Oh, yeah. So I just got myself another copy of this because my copy was old and gross. But this is The Other Side of the Sun by Madeleine L'Engle. I do think that this is one of my favorite books of all time. I'm excited to read it in this new edition. The old one I had was like half the size and covers falling off. I haven't read this since I was a teenager. I do think it's one of my very favorite books. I'm excited to reread this in March. Madeleine L'Engle is most well known as a young adult author, but she also has a whole series or line, not series, they're not connected, like a whole line of adult books. They're excellent, actually, all of them, but it's been a long time since I reread The Other Side of the Sun. Next is number 3. So in April, I will be rereading number 3. Oh, okay. I will be reading What the Body Remembers by Shauna Singh Baldwin. I read this when I was in India. It takes place in India. It's about the partition of India and Pakistan. I think it's one of my favorite books, but I've only read it the once, and it could have been very much influenced by the setting that I was reading it in the place that it happened. So we'll see if I still love that book. That's not my copy from India. About 4 years ago, I got a used copy because I thought, hey, this is one of my favorite books. I should own a copy of it. But I haven't reread it since I lived in India over a decade ago, almost 2 decades ago. Number 12. So that's January, February, March, April. This will be May, number 12. So I've read this book so many times because I used to teach it. I taught it to 6 sections of American Lit every year for 5 years. The Catcher in the Rye. This is not the copy that I taught from. I bought myself a brand new copy of this. It's a larger format, and my old copy is written in like nobody's business. So I want a fresh read of it. I haven't read it since 2015. So I would love to go back into this. I do believe this is one of my very favorite books. I would like to read it with fresh eyes. Here we go. Going back in. For June, we're going to read book number 4 for June. June. Bellwether by Susanna Kersley. I listened to this on audio back in, I don't know, maybe 2018, 2017. And I loved it so much. And the story has stuck with me. It's kind of it's a ghost story, and I loved it, and I have never read the physical copy of it, and I just want to reread it. So I picked up a physical copy for myself, but I never actually picked it up to read, so I'm going to do that in 2022. For July, we're going to read book number 5. The Loving Spirit by Daphne du Maurier. I do believe that this is one of my favorite books. That is my feeling. I believe that it is one of my top 5 favorite books. But get this, I've only read it once. And I read it many, like 2 decades ago. And nobody ever talks about The Loving Spirit. Nobody ever knows about The Loving Spirit. I'm here to tell you that I loved this book, but I only read it once. I am hopeful to read it again. I did own a copy, but very much like my copy of The Other Side of the Sun, it was one of those smaller ones, and it was like from the 60s, and the cover art is embarrassingly atrocious. I'll put an image of it up here. This one is so much better. I picked this up for myself to replace that one a couple of years ago, and I haven't picked it up to read yet. So 2022 is the year, and I will be reading that one in July. August. We're going to read number 6. 6 was sitting right next to me. Same story, different book. I believe this is one of my top 5 favorite books of all time, The History of Love by Nicole Krauss, and I have only read it once. This is the copy that I read. This is my original book. In fact, you could see I was a highlighting queen. But I have only read it once. And I can remember like the structure of it, but I can't really remember the story. I remember some quotes from it, but I can't really remember the story. So I need to know, is this truly one of my favorite books? I'm going to reread it in July of 2022. August, I will read book number 1. Ooh, this is a hefty one. Book number 1 in August. I have no idea what this is. It's hardback and hefty. Oh, I forgot I wrapped this one. I'm glad I wrapped this one now that I've unwrapped it. All right, in August, yet again, same story, different book. I believe this is one of my favorite books. Not top 5, top 20 for sure. But I've only read it once. This is The Queen of the Night, a novel by Alexander Chee, and I've only read it once, and I read it right after I read All the Light We Cannot See, and these are 2 big epic books that take place in they take up space. They take up so much space, physically and emotionally and mentally. And so I don't know if I would love this as much if I weren't reading it, being caught in the upsweep of all of that grandeur of reading these 2 back to back. So I did not pick All the Light We Cannot See, even though I've only read that one once as well and do consider it one of my top 20 favorites. That's not happening this 2022, but I'm glad that I decided to do this. I totally forgot I decided to include this. August will be a great month for this. Yes. Is that August? Wait. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Yes. It'll still be a great month. It's so big. September's the start of school, but that's okay. It's all good. So The Queen of the Night will be read in September. All right, October. Let's see. What will I reread in October? Number 11. Number 11. Ooh, perfect. The only book I have in here with kind of creepy vibes, I think. Well, there's the ghost story, the Bellwether, which I'll be reading, but this one is truly creepy. Rebecca. I've read this several times. This is one of my favorites. I know it's one of my favorites. This was my old classroom copy. It's got my name on it. But I haven't read it in a really long time. I would just like to read it again. I've seen a lot of people reading it this year. I think it just stirred up a desire in me. So that's October. That's perfect for October. 2 left. Number 7. So in November, I'll read this one, which based on size, I know what it is. And it's a great one to read in November. It is Emily of New Moon. These are my original copies. This is what I first read Emily of New Moon in when I was a middle schooler. You could see the pages, or the edging has been bent multiple times. This book has stood the test of time, many moves cross country, overseas, everywhere. And I'm going to reread it again. It will probably be my more than 15 or 20th reading. I have read them many times, but I love them and I wanted to include it in a reread in 2022. So finally, I don't know what this is. In December, I'll be rereading this one, whatever this one is. Oh, I forgot. This would have been good for October too. Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger. This is such a good book. I've only read it once. How many times have I said that? I've only read it once. In 2008, I remember very clearly. It scared the socks off of me and I loved it. I am going to reread this one for the first time since 2008. So I'm so excited. I love the way that stacked up. So let's do a recap real quick. March, The Other Side of the Sun. April, What the Body Remembers. May, The Catcher in the Rye. June, Bellwether. July, The Loving Spirit. August, The History of Love. September, The Queen of the Night. October, Rebecca. November, Emily of New Moon. And December, Her Fearful Symmetry. Extremely excited about that. Now, of course, I'm extremely excited because they're all some of my favorite books, and who doesn't love to read their favorite books? But I also really like the way that played out as far as order for reading. Now, I have stuff to throw away, but I'll do that later. That was so much fun. I also got to open a bunch of presents in the middle of the day. So much fun. All right, birthday book haul. I just have a bunch of things. Not like last year. Last year I went nuts. It was the first time I'd done a birthday book haul for myself. I usually buy myself a couple of books on my birthday, but last year I was like brand new. No, it was my 3rd month of doing this channel, and I was excited. And I got a bunch of stuff, most of which I've read. There's some fantasy and YA stuff that I got last year that I haven't read yet, but that I still will. But a lot of it I read. All of these I will read in 2022. There are not very many of them in comparison to last year. I am like everything has a purpose and a reason for why I bought these things. They were picked all year long. Last year I bought my entire birthday book haul on Black Friday. And this year I like gathered things quietly, and these are books that I've been gathering all year from all sorts of different sources and not letting myself read. So I'm very excited to unleash them in 2022. First on that list is Paradise by Kay Tempest. This is a play that was recently produced and put on at the National Theatre in London, and Kay Tempest is one of my absolute favorite creators of all time. And this is a retelling of I think a Greek myth. Philoctetes lives in a cave on a desolate island. The wartime hero is now a wounded outcast, stranded for 10 years. He sees a chance of escape when a young soldier appears with tales of past glories. But with hope comes suspicion, and as an old enemy emerges, he is faced with an even greater temptation: revenge. So I skimmed down to the bottom while I was reading that, and I realized that this is based on a story from Sophocles. So I'm excited about that. Obviously, I got it for my birthday. For myself. I got this beautiful book. Check that out. This is Our Story, a memoir of love and life in China by Rao Pingru. It says, begun by the author when he was 87 years old and mourning the loss of his wife, Our Story is a graphic memoir like no other, a celebration of a marriage that spanned the 20th century in China. So the pages are just gorgeous. And he did all of these pieces of artwork, and he's telling their story. And I cannot even wait to dig into this. I have waited, so I guess I can even wait, but I love this too. So there they are, the beginning. And there they are at the end. I love them already, and I don't even know their story. It's just so gorgeous. So I got that for myself. And then I picked up the first in this series, A Quiet Life in the Country, a Lady Hardcastle mystery by T.E. Kinsey. I've been getting into mysteries, and that is one of the ones that I want to read and perhaps continue that series. I got H is for Hawk. This is a book that I've listened to in the past, but haven't actually read. It was pretty impactful, and I think it would be more impactful reading it. So I picked up a copy of that. Picked up a used copy of Julian Barnes's The Sense of an Ending. And I'm not entirely sure what this book is about. Somebody sprayed the edge themselves, which I don't like, but it was a used copy, and that's all. It's all good. I don't really know what it's about, but I do want to read Julian Barnes, and I decided to start with something small. So that's why I picked that up. You know that I read all of Dickens in 2020 and 2021, mostly 2021. So I went and picked up his great-granddaughter's book, Mariana. I know she wrote more, and I actually have like a YA book by her on my shelf that I haven't read yet either. But this is Mariana by Monica Dickens. And of course, this is the Persephone Classics edition, and it's just so gorgeous. And so I picked this up, and I am excited to read it and see how his granddaughter writes. I picked up The Summer Before the War by Helen Simonson. This is by the author of Major Pettigrew's Last Stand, not to be confused with Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. Totally different. Great name, though. But this says it takes place in East Sussex, 1914. It's the end of England's brief Edwardian summer, and in the idyllic coastal town of Rye, Agatha Kent has just risked her carefully built reputation by pushing for the appointment of a woman to replace the Latin master. When Beatrice Nash arrives with one trunk and several large crates of books, it is clear she is significantly more free-thinking and attractive than anyone believes a Latin teacher should be. And it goes on from there. So I'm excited to read that. I think that will be a fun read. Then I read A Town Like Alice this past year, and I loved it so much that I picked up another Neville Shute to read. This is Pied Piper by Neville Shute. And it says, John Howard is determined to brighten up his old age by taking a fishing trip to France. However, during his stay, the Second World War breaks out, and he is forced to try to escape back to England. He takes with him the 2 small children of some friends who stay behind in order to help the Allies. As the conflict grows closer, the roads become impassable, and Howard comes across 5 more children who need his help. He ends up leading this motley group of youngsters through the French countryside, constantly beset by danger, yet heroically protecting his charges. That sounds like perfection to me. I read Ms. Hargreaves and loved it. And so when I saw these 2, not by the same author, but from the same series or the same publisher, the Bloomsbury Group, and obviously from the same series because they have the same artwork and kind of wild, garish coloring, I picked up both of these. One is by Rowan O'Grady, and it's called Let's Kill Uncle. It says, when recently orphaned Barnaby Gaunt is sent to stay with his uncle on a beautiful remote Canadian island, he's all set to have the perfect summer holiday, except for one small problem: his uncle is trying to kill him. And so he and his friend are going to try and kill the uncle before the uncle kills them. And this was written in like the 1930s or 40s, and so I'm excited to read that. Then there is Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, and also Mrs. Harris Goes to New York, but Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is more fun to say. And that is by Paul Gallico. And it says, Mrs. Harris is a salt-of-the-earth London charlady who cheerfully cleans the houses of the rich. One day, when tidying Lady Dance's wardrobe, she comes across the most beautiful thing she's ever seen, a Dior dress. She's never seen anything as magical, and she's never wanted anything as much. Determined to make her dream come true, Mrs. Harris scrimps, saves, and slaves away until one day she finally has enough money to go to Paris. Little does she know how her life is about to be transformed forever. So, I'm excited to read that one. Sounds like fun. This one I almost let myself read. You'll see that I've marked the pages, but in the end I didn't. I stood strong, and that is The Appeal by Janice Haylett. Everybody in England's reading this one, and so I'm sure you've heard of it or seen some booktuber talk about it. This is a mystery which requires you, the reader, to figure it out. And it's told, it's one murder, 15 suspects. Can you uncover the truth? And it's told in a series of like emails and memos and things like that. So I'm excited to read that one. Like I said, I almost already did, but in the end I didn't. I was strong. I got D.E. Stevenson's Spring Magic. This says, Frances was free, her plans were vague, but she would have plenty of time to think things out when she got to Cairn. One thing only was certain: she was never going back to prison again. And that was enough. D.E. Stevenson is an author that I already know that I enjoy, and I've never even heard of this particular book by them, so I'm excited to read this one. Let's see. To all appearances, Hannah Mole is the perfect servant, plain, quiet, and efficient. For 20 years, she's earned her living as a companion to a succession of demanding elderly women. Ostensibly, she knows her place, but with wry humor and a lively imagination, keeps reality at bay. Now, aged 40, a thin and shabby figure, Miss Mole returns to Radstown, the lovely town of her youth. Here, if not exactly welcomed, she is at least sheltered and employed by the pompous Reverend Robert Corder. A competent housekeeper, she transforms the dreary vicarage and gives gentle guidance to his unhappy daughters, while never letting the Reverend suspect that her intellect surpasses his own. But she must be wary, for her past holds a secret which, if brought to light, will jeopardize her precarious existence. Sounds good. If you can't tell, I've picked lots of mysterious things. I'm totally in a mystery mood these days. I grabbed this from Book Outlet. This is That Way Madness Lies, Shakespeare's most notable works reimagined. So this is a series of short stories. So those are just retellings of Shakespeare for, I think, a YA audience. Then I picked up this. This is The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend by Katerina Bivald. And I'd seen this book before in other covers and had no interest in it whatsoever. And when I saw it in this cover, I was like, ooh, must have. So I picked this one up. This is not by any means a new book, but it says Sarah is 28 and has never been outside. Can we just stop and look at that? I love it so much. Sarah is 28, has never been outside Sweden, except in the many books she reads. When her elderly pen friend, Amy, invites her to come to visit her in Broken Wheel, Iowa, Sarah decides it's time. But when she arrives, there's a twist waiting for her. Amy has died. So, yeah, I'm totally into this. I would have been into it if I ever read the back of it, but the American cover is so disenchanting to me that I ignored it for years. And then I saw that cover and thought, ooh, must be mine. This one, I did pick up. I can't take the sticker off. I did pick up, and I did pick it up from Book Outlet. It was very cheap. I am not in general, like I have a love-hate relationship with this author, and I had kind of sworn off ever reading them again, but I am curious about this one, so I did pick up Frederick Bachman's Anxious People, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I hope it's going to be one that I love. It says it's a poignant, charming, I love that word. I think I say it wrong, but I love it. Poignant. Charming novel about a crime that never took place. A would-be bank robber who disappears into the thin air, and 8 extremely anxious strangers who find they have more in common than they ever imagined. So his premise is usually enticing to me, but sometimes the execution is awful. Like, I love his book, Britt Marie, about the soccer, and I hate most of his other books, including Ove. I don't like books that intentionally try to to emotionally manipulate the reader. And I feel like that's all he's really trying to do all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to justify it to myself right now. I shouldn't have bought that book, but I did. So now I'm going to read it. This one, however, I am not going to have to justify for myself. This is the Mary Shelley Club. I've had my eye on this for a while, but I didn't want to pay full price for it, so I got it on Book Outlet when it was there. And I didn't want to pay full price because it's YA, and a lot of times YA I end up not keeping, but enjoying for a one-time read. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this for more than a one-time read. I hope so, but maybe not. This is super fun. It's, and also dark and terrible. It says, the club rules. The Mary Shelley Club is a secret. Everyone gets one fear test that all members must help execute. You must perform this task assigned to you, no exceptions. You must pick your target before the test starts. That's your 8 ball. You may scare everyone else in the room, but if you don't sink the 8 ball, you have failed this test. The game isn't over until everyone has had their turn. A member of the club may never be a target. A fear test ends when your target screams. And it's about a new girl, Rachel Chavez, who shows up at this high school, and their relationship with the Mary Shelley Club. Next, I picked up this copy of Glasstown, which is a graphic novel. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my word. So beautiful. I picked it up because it's pretty, but also because this is the imaginary world of the Brontes. So this is a graphic novel that tells the story both of the children, the Bronte children, writing their imaginary worlds in Gondel, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but they had 2 of them, and also the stories that they wrote. So all of it will be here. I think this is the children being the jinn, being the genies, being the gods of the worlds that they create. I took the sticker off of this, and it was a bad idea because it wrecked it, but it was a huge sticker. I picked up William Faulkner's Collected Stories. I have a love-hate relationship with William Faulkner as well, but I do remember in college reading several of his stories, short stories, and loving them. Don't think I get on with, and don't think I would ever get on with, his longer work, but I would like to try him as a short story author, so I picked that up. I picked up Willa Cather's Sapphira and the Slave Girl. This is a beautiful copy of this book, but I have read and really enjoyed most of what I've read from Willa Cather, or Cather. I'm not sure how to say her name. I've always said Cather. And I had never heard of this one, so I will read this one. I'm a little bit trepidatious about the subject matter. We'll see. Maybe there's a reason why I've never heard of this one, but we shall see. And then I picked up, last year I read, and not last year, it's still 2021. In 2021, I read and absolutely loved my very first E.M. Forrester. I read Room with a View, and so now I am reading Howard's End in 2022. Excited about that. I picked up for myself a new copy of Jane Eyre. I've only ever owned one copy of Jane Eyre, which is my favorite book, which I have reread multiple times. And my copy is like the old Bantam classic that's like this big, and it's hot pink, and has a nice little image on the cover, but it's quite small. The writing is minuscule. So I finally bought myself a new copy. I'm very excited about this one. I pre-ordered this and I've had it sitting with me for a long time and I haven't let myself touch it. It's been so hard. This is Ben Hopkins. Hello. This is Ben Hopkins Cathedral. It says, for almost 2 centuries, the construction of a grand cathedral in the center of the medieval town of Haggensburg unites a vast array of unforgettable characters whose destinies are inseparable from the shifting political factions and economic interests vying for supremacy in the region. Immersive, highly entertaining, and once an erudite work of historical fiction and a gripping tale of intrigue, Cathedral tells a sweeping story about obsession, mysticism, art, money, and earthly desire. It's just a few more. I picked up The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I've seen so many people talking about this, so I caved. Like I've said, and like you've seen, a lot of what I'm interested in right now is kind of like a mysterious and a cozy mystery type sort of feel, and so this seemed like a perfect pick. I love Richard Osman. I enjoy the show, what is it called? Would I Lie to You? I love that show. I'll watch episodes of it on YouTube and on BritBox. Love it so much. And he's sometimes featured on there. So I am familiar with him. I enjoy his humor. And I'm hoping that I will enjoy The Thursday Murder Club. I picked this one up. Lonely Castle in the Mirror. It's so gorgeous. There's the back. It says, would you share your deepest secrets to save a friend? In a tranquil neighborhood of Tokyo, 7 teenagers wake to find their bedroom mirrors are shining. At a single touch, they are pulled from their lonely lives to a wondrous castle filled with winding stairways, watchful portraits, and twinkling chandeliers. In this new sanctuary, they are confronted with a set of clues leading to a hidden room, where one of them will be granted a wish, but there's a catch. If they don't leave the castle by 5 o'clock, they will be punished. As time passes, they begin to realize only those brave enough to share their stories will be saved. Tender, playful, gripping, Lonely Castle in the Mirror is a mesmerizing tale about confronting your fears and embracing human connection. So, it's also a pretty book. I picked both of these up. They are by Melissa Harrison. I have read, what's her, Bringing in the Rye? What's that book called? Now I'm going to have to see if they've listed all the books she's written, but I don't think they will have because it's a different audience. No, they just mention at Hawthorne Time. I think it's Bringing in the Rye. Anyway, I read that book by her and loved it. I read it in 2021. So I picked both of these up, which are the first and second in a series that she's writing for middle grade. And they are really gorgeous and beautiful and fanciful. They are by Ash, Oak, and Thorn. And then the second one is by Rowan and Yu. And it says, what in the wild world is happening? 3 little people no bigger than your hand wake up from their winter sleep in the hollow trunk of an old ash tree. Moss, Burnet, and Cumulus usually love spring, but their joy turns to worry when they discover that Cumulus, the oldest, is starting to fade away. And then in the second book, autumn is arriving. I won't read it because it's the second book and I don't want to be spoiled, but I'm excited to read both of those, and aren't they just so pretty as well? So many pretty books. I got this collection of short stories by Ava Ibbotson. I also have, I think it's Platform 13 by Ava Ibbotson that I would like to read. I picked it up at a little free library. It's sitting right there. But I haven't read anything by Ava Ibbotson, but this is a collection of short stories. It's called A Glove Shop in Vienna and Other Winter Stories, and I would like to read this maybe next year during December. This year I'm reading one short story in bed a night before I go to sleep, from the Penguin like Christmas collection or collection of Christmas stories, and I'm loving that. It's kind of an Advent thing. I think I'd like to do that with this book. So I won't read this for a while, I don't think, but I'm really looking forward to the moment that that happens. I picked up the first in the Miss Marple series, Agatha Christie, the Queen of Mystery, The Murder at the Vicarage, a Miss Marple mystery. This is the first Miss Marple. There's the Queen in all her glory. And I am going to read one Miss Marple a month, every month, in all of 2022. That will take me through the whole Miss Marple collection, except for the short stories. I will get the collection of short stories, and I might read them in the summer, or I might get it and just like read some every month all year long. So that'll be 13 books to complete all of Miss Marple. In my whole life, I've read 2 Agatha Christie books, and no Miss Marples. None of them have been Miss Marple. So I am excited to meet the Marpster. Just a couple more here. I picked up Refuge, which is a children's book. It's a retelling of the story of Jesus's birth, and it spins it, as it truly was, as a refugee tale. And I love it. Love it, love it. I picked up and have read, full disclosure, The Boy and the Giant. This is such a beautiful book. It is glorious. It's absolutely glorious. Not only is it beautiful in illustration, but the story is beautiful. And if you're still looking for a Christmas gift for someone, old or young, I highly recommend The Boy and the Giant. It is a story about belonging. And then finally, I got myself this one, which will take me ages to read. This is called The Apartment, A Century of Russian History. It does a lot of things. So one thing, so cool. One thing it does is introduce to you all the characters who you'll meet throughout the century. And then it also shows you these things here, these artifacts, and you get to search for those artifacts throughout the apartment, and little glimpses of the apartment as the years and the decades go by. But you're also being told the stories of the people who live in here, and you get to watch the apartment and the people change over, that's the same apartment, you get to watch them change over the course of time from 1914 to 2002. And then there's a whole glossary of words and people to know. There's a timeline of Russian history. It's a place where you can find and listen to all the songs that are mentioned in the book as being played in the background. It's just really, really gorgeous. And you get to, it's like a search and find game, and a history book, and a graphic novel, and a piece of art all at once. And I'm there for that. So happy birthday to me. I'm gifting myself the gift of good reading, happy moments, mystery, intrigue, a return to old favorites. 2022 is going to be a great reading year. I'm very excited about it. Happy birthday to me. Bye.